Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 9 Part 35 based on novel. So let's start. Has Elder met Elder Qingji before? Lin Dong looked at Mulan in front of him with some surprise. Yes. Mulan grinned and nodded. His eyes swept over Lin Dong as he laughed. I seldom see him think so highly of someone from the younger generation. Little fellow, it seems that you are a little extraordinary. Lin Dong chuckled modestly. He did not know how Qingji had evaluated him, however, he felt some gratitude towards the latter. If it was not because the latter had tore apart space and lent a hand back then at Unique Devil City, it would likely be extremely difficult for his two brothers and himself to escape from the hands of the three great sect masters of Yuan Gate. If he had the opportunity to do so in the future, he would repay this debt. Although he was aware that Qingji was already a pinnacle existence in this world, Lin Dong believed that he would also be able to reach that level one day. The only thing he needed was time. Third Grandpa, why are you here? Mu Lingshan came over and asked. Little girl, it is all because of the trouble you have caused. Earlier, I received some information about the Blood Demon Shark clan. I was afraid that something had happened to you, so came out to take a look. Mulan helplessly said. Those smelly sharks from the Blood Demon Shark clan managed to find me, and I was even struck by a seal of that old bastard, Chen Liao. If it was not for Brother Lin Dong's help, I would have landed in the hands of those fellows. Mu Lingshan spoke angrily. An icy expression immediately flashed across Mulan's eyes after he heard these words. He rubbed Mu Lingshan's head, and softly said, Chen Liao He. You can be rest assured that Third Grandpa will personally find trouble with that person. Currently, the Blood Demon Shark clan is really becoming increasingly wild and bold. They even dare to touch a member of my Immortal Sage Whale clan. Looks like it's time to give them a beating. However, it is indeed a little dangerous for a little girl like you to be outside. I do not wish to return. Mu Lingshan shook her head rapidly like a rattle before Mulan could finish speaking. Her small face was filled with a dissatisfaction and resistance. Mulan was helpless and could only gently try to convince her. However, Mu Lingshan seemed to have already made up her mind. Lin Dong found the way they were arguing to be a little comical. He shook his head and ignored them. His body landed on the mysterious whale, sat down and started recuperating. The argument between the two lasted for a couple of minutes. After which, Lin Dong saw Mulan smiling bitterly as he pulled the grinning Mu Lingshan and landed. Little friend Lin Dong. This girl insists on traveling with you. Hence, I hope that you can help take care of her. Mulan cupped his hands towards Lin Dong and said with a smile. Lin Dong was startled for a while, before he looked at Mu Lingshan. The latter was repeatedly trying to send him a message with her eyes. Lin Dong immediately chuckled and said, Elder Mulan is too courteous. Lingshan and I are friends. If she really wishes to travel with me and you have no objections to her doing so, I will naturally have no complaints. Then I'll have to thank you first. Mulan also smiled and said, I have received a request from Qingji, and have to attend to some matters with him. Hence, I cannot bring this girl along. Lin Dong nodded. Although he was a little curious as to what these top experts were planning to do, he did not probe further. I heard Lingshan mention that the both of you are heading to the Sky Lightning Sea region. Mulan changed the topic and asked. That's right. We have snatched a silver tower from the demonic wind cave, and it seems to be a key for a cave left behind by a reincarnation stage expert. We wish to head over and see if we will have any lucky encounters. Lin Dong did not hide anything, as he explained with a smile. The Sky Lightning Sea region is indeed a little unique. It is not surprising that there really is a reincarnation stage expert's cave dwelling there. Mulan thought for a moment before commenting. Does Elder Mulan know of the Sky Lightning Sea region? Lin Dong was a little startled. It was an unknown sea region after all, and very few were aware of its location. Otherwise, why would the matter of the cave dwelling start to get around only recently? We are from the Sea Demon tribe, and we naturally have a much smoother time navigating this chaotic demon sea than you humans. Why not Elder Mu Lan come with us? With a powerful person like you around, it is likely that no one will be able to compete with us. Lin Dong joked. Mu Lan also laughed upon hearing this. He quickly shook his head and replied, I might know of the Sky Lightning Sea region, but I have never entered. That sea region seems to have a seal on it. Those who are too powerful will instead be unable to enter. Lin Dong was a little taken aback. He did not expect that the Sky Lightning Sea region actually had such a restriction. However, this was just as well. If his competitors were too powerful, it was likely that there would not even be leftovers for them. Even less needed to be said about the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. According to what I know, there are a total of 3 keys to the cave, which is the silver tower that you have snatched. The remaining 2 silver towers have appeared in other sea regions, and it is rumored that they already have owners. Mu Lan said. Oh? Who have managed to obtain them? Lin Dong could not help but ask. He needed to understand a little more about these potential competitors. Mysterious Sky Hall and 9 Serene Gate, Mu Lan replied with a chuckle. They are relatively powerful factions within the chaotic demon sea. It looks like it will not be easy for you to gain a share from the cave. Mysterious Sky Hall. 9 Serene Gate. Lin Dong's eyes hardened slightly. Even though he had only recently arrived in the chaotic demon sea, he had already heard of the names of these 2 powerful factions. They were considered overlords in the chaotic demon sea, and were much stronger than the demonic wind cave. It is indeed a little troublesome. However, since the Sky Lightning Sea region restricts those overly powerful individuals from entering, I will have nothing to fear. Lin Dong grinned and replied. You do have some courage. No wonder Qingji has such a high evaluation of you. Mu Lan laughed. He felt some admiration towards Lin Dong's courage and fearlessness. I will accompany the both of you for a part of the journey. Otherwise, that Wu Xian might return. Mu Lan lifted his head to look at the azure sky before declaring. In that case, we will have to trouble Elder. Lin Dong cupped his hands together in thanks. With Mu Lan protecting them, he would no longer need to be worried about Wu Xian. This had undoubtedly allowed him to relax substantially. Although Lin Dong was aware that the reason Mu Lan was willing to lower himself to be their guard was mostly because of Mu Lingshan, the friendly manner in which Mu Lan had spoken to him had also left a good impression. Splash! The mysterious whale flapped its tail. After which, its enormous body broke through the waves as it rapidly swam forward. Laughter would occasionally be emitted from the whale's back. Night approached, as stars flickered in the dark sky. Mu Lingshan was once again sleeping soundly on the huge whale, while Lin Dong was also quietly seated. Wave after wave of majestic yuan power surged around his body like floodwaters, while a drop of emerald liquid floated in his palm. It was the core spiritual birth serum. Kai? The core spiritual birth serum gradually descended and entered Lin Dong's palm. Immediately, dense life chi spread. The emerald green light moved along Lin Dong's arm, and entered his body, causing his body to appear like a large tree filled with life force. As the life chi flowed into his body, the yuan power within Lin Dong's body began to become even more bountiful at a shocking speed. Although the yuan power within Lin Dong's body rapidly increased as the life chi was infused into it, there was strangely not even the slightest trace of superficiality in his vigorous yuan power. What a stable foundation! Mu Lan's expression was slightly altered as he sat on the mysterious whale and looked towards the starry sky. He glanced at the cultivating Lin Dong, as some surprise flashed within his eyes. Normally, one's yuan power would become somewhat superficial when the yuan power in one's body rose in such a dramatic manner. However, the rapidly increasing yuan power within Lin Dong's body still gave off a stable feeling. It was as though the rapidly increasing yuan power was still being perfectly controlled by Lin Dong. Under Mu Lan's observation, the dense life chi within Lin Dong's body gradually merged perfectly with the latter's yuan power. Hence, the emerald green light slowly faded away. However, Lin Dong still did not completely break through to the advanced profound life stage. Evidently, even though he had reached the peak of the initial profound life stage, it was still a little difficult for him to break through by relying on a single drop of core spiritual birth serum. It seems that he is still a step away. Mulan looked at the weakening yuan power ripple around Lin Dong's body and laughed softly. "Little fellow, on account of having asked you to take care of Lingshan, I shall give you this gift today." Mulan extended his hand after his words sounded, as dense life chi gathered in his palm. A moment later, it formed a thumb-sized life chi crystal. The interior of the crystal was filled with extremely majestic and pure life chi. Moreover, its strength had far surpassed what a drop of core spiritual birth serum possessed. Clearly, this intervention by Mulan was not ordinary. Swoosh! The life chi crystal condensed. After which, Mulan flicked his finger, and the crystal turned into a flash of white light that shot directly into Lin Dong's body. Buzz! Lin Dong's body suddenly trembled after the crystal entered. That originally weakening yuan power fluctuation once again unfurled in an even more ferocious manner. Bang bang! Majestic yuan power swirled as it rose around Lin Dong. As yuan power collided against each other, they emitted a deep muffled sound, which spread across the surface of the sea into the distance. A faint white light rose from within Lin Dong's body. The life chi within the white light was even purer than the life chi contained in the core spiritual birth serum. Yuan power whistled within his body before they greedily merged with those traces of white light. After merging, Lin Dong's aura, which had initially halted, once again rose wildly. The yuan power within his body whistled like a pinwheel. His yuan spirit sat within his dantian, as it continuously devoured the majestic yuan power. Boom! Lin Dong's aura continued to rise. Suddenly, a soft breaking sound seemed to have appeared from nowhere. His aura also seemed to be like a mighty eagle which had just broken free of the thunder clouds, and absorbed the spacious landscape within its eyes. Advanced Profound Life Stage. After receiving this so-called gift from Mulan, Lin Dong had finally taken this step forward and advanced into the Advanced Profound Life Stage. The white light surging within Lin Dong's body suddenly withdrew swiftly after he had completely advanced into the Advanced Profound Life Stage. Finally, it turned into a crystal glow and disappeared within Lin Dong's dantian. At this moment, Lin Dong's mind had submerged into his dantian. He was able to see a thumb-sized white-colored crystal body quietly floating within it. There was also a relatively large life chi ripple vaguely spreading from within it. Clearly, the current Lin Dong was unable to completely refine and absorb this gift from Mulan. It was likely that the life chi crystal would assist him again, when he wanted to make another breakthrough. Kai? Lin Dong's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened up at this moment. A trace of light flashed over it and appeared to tear through the dark night. A cluster of white vapor was emitted through Lin Dong's throat. He could sense the floodwater-like yuan power coursing through his body, which eventually fell into a silence like a sleeping lion. A smidgen of excitement involuntarily flashed across his face. I have finally advanced into the Advanced Profound Life Stage. Congratulations. A clear laughter sounded from beside Lin Dong. He turned his head and saw Mulan lying on the back of his whale. Both his hands were placed behind his head, while his handsome face contained a smile. Elder, thank you for your help. Lin Dong cupped his hands together and said. He was naturally able to sense the origin of the life chi crystal within his body. Who else could form such powerful and pure life chi other than an elite expert, who had reached the samsara stage? Mulan grinned. The night wind blew his long blue hair, causing him to appear relatively suave. He looked at Lin Dong and said, "It is because your foundation is as solid as a rock. Otherwise, I would not have intervened as it may end up destroying your foundation. Furthermore, Qingji will definitely duke it out with me once he knows about it. Since he has passed the green heaven materialized dragon skill to you, it is likely that he expects a great deal from you. Elder Qingji has also done me a favor before and I wish to repay him should I have the opportunity to do so." Lin Dong said. "You should improve yourself before mentioning this. I know that you hold many secrets. However, at the very least, you must step into the profound death stage before you have the qualifications to come into contact with people at our level." Mulan laughed. Mulan's eyes swept over Lin Dong's body in a somewhat surprised manner as he said. When he implanted that life chi crystal into Lin Dong's body previously, he could vaguely sense that the latter seemed to possess many things that even he could not probe deeply. Lin Dong nodded slightly. He was aware that Mulan had perhaps sensed something within his body. However, the devouring ancestral symbol, the ancient universe formation and ancestor stone within his body were no ordinary objects. If one was to really discuss about them, they likely possessed a greater origin than Mulan. The latter was able to vaguely sense them, but unless Lin Dong actively cooperated, he was still unable to probe deeply into them. I heard Qingji mention the things you did in the Eastern Xian region. TSK, I truly don't know where you find that courage from. You actually dare to challenge the 3 great sect chiefs of Yuan Gate. Those are 3 elite experts who have reached Samsara stage. Mulan changed the topic and said. Lin Dong smiled in embarrassment. He said, my hands were tied. I can't simply allow myself to be caught, can I? Mulan stood up. His eyes narrowed slightly and said, Yuan Gate, that is a relatively powerful sect within the Eastern Xian region. Many years ago, the chaotic Demon Sea also had an overlord faction, which started a war with them. However, they were eventually unable to gain any ground. Lin Dong was slightly stunned. Clearly, he did not expect that the Yuan Gate actually possessed such a reputation even in the chaotic Demon Sea. However, that sect. Mulan curled his lips. A darkness flashed across his narrowed eyes as he said, there seems to be something amiss. Huh? Lin Dong was a little lost as he looked at Mulan. Clearly, he did not understand what the latter meant by amiss. I once came into contact with Yuan Gate, haha, perhaps it is just a mistake. However, you should be cautious if you wish to exact revenge in the future. Mulan waved his hand though he did not dwell on this topic. Elder, thank you for your reminder. Lin Dong nodded. Currently, he was not powerful enough to think of taking revenge. However, owing to his typical cautious behavior, he still chose to keep Mulan's words carefully in his heart. Besides, you should be cautious when you head to the Sky Lightning Sea region this time around. Although not many people knew the route to the Sky Lightning Sea region in the past, once news about the cave of a reincarnation stage expert spread, it would likely attract countless number of experts. However, there are only 3 silver towers to enter the cave. Since they would not dare to target the mysterious Sky Hall and the 9 Serene Gate, you will be their ideal target. Mulan continued. Has the news already gotten out? Lin Dong was slightly startled. It was nothing if it was merely news of the cave's existence being spread. However, how did the others come to know the route to the Sky Lightning Sea region? The mysterious Sky Hall and the 9 Serene Gate spread the word. Lin Dong quickly recovered. Only 3 parties were aware of the route. Since it was not him who had spread the news, it was definitely the 2 other parties. Yes. Although I do not know why they purposefully spread the news to attract so many people to the Sky Lightning Sea region, these large factions are all extremely cunning. They would not take any action without thinking it through. Mulan nodded and remarked. Lin Dong's eyes revealed an expression of deep thought. Mulan was correct. It was best for there to be as little people as possible involved in this treasure hunt. However, the mysterious Sky Hall and the 9 Serene Gate had acted in an opposite fashion and they definitely had their own reasons for doing so. It seems like he would have to be careful when heading over there. Otherwise, he might end up falling into their trap. That's right, Elder Mulan. I have a question I don't know if I should ask. Lin Dong suddenly recalled something. He glanced at Mu Lingshan by the side, who was in a deep sleep, before asking. Huh? Mulan looked at Lin Dong with some doubt in his eyes. It seems like Lingshan's constitution is a little unique. Lin Dong hesitated for a moment before involuntarily speaking. He has been puzzled over how Mu Lingshan was able to provoke the devouring ancestral symbol in his body for a while. Lin Dong's words had just sounded out when he immediately saw Mulan's expression change slightly. Promptly, the latter stared at him and said, "It seems like the secrets that I have sensed within your body should be the ancestral symbol, right? Or perhaps, It is the most mysterious symbol amongst the 8 great ancestral symbols, the devouring ancestral symbol. Lin Dong's eyes shrunk at this moment. He did not expect that a simple question actually allowed Mu Lan to deduce so much information. Moreover, the latter even guessed the exact ancestral symbol which he possessed. Mu Lan stared at Lin Dong. His expression appeared a little complicated as he muttered, "No wonder this little girl likes to follow you. I see. Does Ling Shan really have a relationship with the ancestral symbol?" Lin Dong softly asked. Mu Lan's expression was in flux. Finally, he waved his hand and said, "Perhaps you will come to learn of these matters in the future. However, I cannot tell you about it. Take good care of this girl." Mu Lan patted Lin Dong's shoulder. He uttered a sentence with a deep meaning which only caused Lin Dong to frown tightly. After which, he turned his head and glanced at the pretty little girl, who was deep asleep under the moonlight. Ling Shan, what relationship did she have with the devouring ancestral symbol within his body? Due to the presence of an ultimate samsara stage expert like Mu Lan, the journey to Sky Lightning Sea region was extremely smooth. The chief of the demonic wind cave, Wu Xian, did not appear again. It was likely that he understood that he was unable to touch the Lin Dong duo with Mu Lan guarding them. All he could do now was to gnash his teeth and swallow the matter of having lost the Silver Tower. After all, the strength of his demonic wind cave could not compare to the immortal Sage Whale clan. Of course, although the journey was considered smooth sailing, there was still some unavoidable trouble along the way. After all, the sea-guarding mysterious whale they were riding on was far too eye-catching. Such a sea beast was usually extremely valuable. If it was captured and sold in an auction, the price it fetched would not be any less than a pure yuan treasure. It was precisely because of this, their group had ended up attracting the notice of some pirates. These pirates actively killed and robbed people on the sea all year round, and each and every one of them were extremely ruthless individuals. Some of them were famous even in the entire chaotic demon sea. Their eyes undoubtedly turned blood red after seeing only 3 people riding the sea-guarding mysterious whale. However, these so-called vicious pirates had undoubtedly kicked an extremely hard metal plate this time. All of those who charged forth while brandishing their blades with faces filled with murder, were directly swept to the bottom of the sea in the next second, never to surface again. After several groups had perished into the sea, some of the pirate groups finally seemed to understand that those 3 individuals on the whale were no virtuous saints. This was especially the case after a relatively well-known pirate group's 3 advanced profound life stage leaders were buried at the bottom of the sea with a wave of Mu Lan's sleeve. Fear finally shattered the greed within the eyes of those pirates as they began to flee. News quickly spread while these pirates fled. Subsequently, all the pirate groups withdrew wherever the mysterious whale passed. Evidently, these people who frequently engaged in bloody battles clearly understood that these 3 were people they could not afford to offend. It was best for them to obediently withdraw. With no more hindrances, the Lin Dong trio's speed rose once again. They traveled across the sea for around 20 days in this fashion, before they finally reached the southwestern part of the chaotic demon sea. Furthermore, they also gradually neared their destination, Sky Lightning Sea region. A huge whale broke through the waves over the Ersho mirror-like sea, as the crashing sound of water clearly echoed over the surface of the sea. Lin Dong sat on the back of the whale. His body was still as a statue, while his pitch-black eyes peered into the distance as he suddenly smiled. One more day and we should be able to reach the Sky Lightning Sea region. Oh, we're arriving. Mu Lingshan quickly became excited upon hearing these words. It was likely that she could not wait to join in the fun. Lin Dong grinned and nodded. Their almost month-long journey had exhausted him substantially. Fortunately, they were being carried by the mysterious whale. Otherwise, this journey would be extended by at least 2 to 3 times if they tried to cross the sea by themselves. We are finally arriving. Leisurely enjoying the sun on the whale's back, Mu Lan also chuckled upon hearing this. He extended his slender hand to block a ray of sunlight. After which, he got up and said, "Since we are arriving, it is also time for me to leave." Lin Dong smacked his lips after hearing that Mu Lan was leaving. He felt a little regretful. It would be great if such a powerful helper could follow them to the Sky Lightning Sea region. However, Lin Dong merely kept such thoughts in his mind. Mulan's protection during this journey had saved them a great deal of trouble, and the latter also had matters that he needed to attend to. It would be a little too much for him to have such delusions. Lin Dong would never be able to do such things given his character. This journey has inconvenienced elder Mulan. Lin Dong spoke sincerely towards Mulan. Mulan had not only helped them chase away a powerful individual like Wu Xian, but had even aided him in breaking through to the advanced profound life stage. Such kindness would be remembered by Lin Dong. What trouble is there? I still have to trouble you to take care of this little girl. Mulan waved his hand and laughed in a clear and bright manner. No worries, elder, you can be certain that I will not allow anyone to hurt Lingshan as long as I am still alive. Lin Dong cupped his hands together and spoke in a solemn voice. Ha ha, I can be reassured with these words of yours. Mulan stood up. After which, he once again rubbed Mu Lingshan's little head beside him and said, Lass, obediently listen to your brother Lin Dong. Do not cause any trouble. I know. Mu Lingshan shook her head and dodged Mulan's hand. She drew out her words as she replied in a dissatisfied manner. Ha ha, I will take my leave first. Lin Dong, hopefully you will be able to gain something in that reincarnation stage expert's cave dwelling. Mulan once again laughed heartily. He did not say anything else, as his body moved and swept into the sky. He seemed to teleport as he flashed in the southern direction, and swiftly disappeared into the horizon. That naggy old man is finally gone. Mu Lingshan immediately exhaled deeply after seeing Mulan disappear into the distance. Her small hands were quickly placed on her hips, as she heartily laughed at the sky. However, that clear chime-like laughter was a little comical no matter how one heard it. Lin Dong was amused as he watched the suddenly lively Mu Lingshan, and involuntarily shook his head. After which, he looked towards the southwest where their destination lay. Now that there was no longer an ultimate expert like Mulan present, he would need to rely on himself for the rest of the journey. However, Lin Dong preferred such a feeling. Due to them approaching Sky Lightning Sea region, both Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan decided to allow the sea-guarding mysterious whale to return to the ocean after a brief discussion. Although it was an extremely good mount, it was far too large in size and was far too eye-catching. Moreover, they did not have Mulan with them. Hence, it was best to keep a low profile. After abandoning the sea-guarding mysterious whale, the Lin Dong duo's speed was reduced. However, they still managed to reach the outer regions of Sky Lightning Sea region on the third day. Rumble. Lin Dong floated in the air as he peered into the distance. The sea there had suddenly turned from blue to pitch black. Moreover, the sky was filled with endless black thunder clouds. Lightning shuttled within them like dragons, while thunder deeply rumbled. This sight was exactly the same as what Lin Dong had seen in the Silver Tower. Lin Dong observed this sea region, which was black to the point of being frightening, as his heart involuntarily began to beat faster. He had constantly imagined this day ever since he had obtained information about this second ancestral symbol back then in Yang City. After so many years, the second ancestral symbol was finally becoming increasingly close. Brother Lin Dong, there are many people nearby. Mu Lingshan's large eyes looked around her and could not help but remark. At this moment, rushing wind sound appeared from time to time at the outer area of this Sky Lightning Sea region, as numerous light rays shot past in the sky. Evidently, these were all experts who were attracted by the reincarnation cave dwelling. Lin Dong's brows knitted slightly upon seeing this scene. He truly did not understand exactly what mysterious Sky Hall and Nine Serene Gate were planning to actually attract so many experts over. There is a large amount of aura's presences gathering in front of us. We should head over first and take a look. Lin Dong lifted his head and peered into the distance. An island was faintly discernible. Those human figure light rays in the sky were also gathering there. Although Lin Dong really wished to head to the reincarnation stage expert's cave dwelling immediately, he clearly understood that there were a total of 3 keys to open the cave. He only had one of them in his hands. Hence, He would need to work with the mysterious Sky Hall and the Nine Serene Gate if he wished to enter. Lin Dong's figure swiftly rushed forward after his voice sounded, while Mu Lingshan immediately followed behind him. The two of them swept across the sky. After 10 minutes or so, the large island finally appeared in their sights. Countless rays of light crossed each other in the sky above the island, appearing like a net of light. It was extremely magnificent. At the middle of the island was an ancient stone city which was currently filled with people. The noise from it broke the previous silence of this place. The Lin Dong duo gently landed in the majestic city. However, moments after he landed in the stone city, a slight tremor was emitted from the silver tower within his Qianquan bag. The activity of the silver tower caused Lin Dong's eyes to harden a little. After which, he slowly lifted his head and looked at the only stone tower within the city. There seemed to be two figures quietly seated on the most eye-catching spot on the island. The source of the shaking of the silver tower was from them. A black-clothed man on the stone tower suddenly lifted the corners of his mouth into an arc. He gently put down the teacup in his hand. After which, he lifted his head and looked at the soul-stirring white-clothed beauty in front of him as he smiled and said, "It seems that the person we are waiting for has arrived." This video will end here.